Yes, a very good evening to you, and you're very welcome to On the Ball here on WLR, our final programme of 2020, all brought to you by UPMC Sports Medicine, building better athletes. Very shortly we'll reflect on Dublin making its 6 All-Ireland Senior Football Championship titles in a row on Saturday night as they dethrone Mayo yet again. We'll hear from former Waterford boss Tom McGlinchey. We'll reflect on a dramatic weekend cross-channel in the Premier League, including big wins for Liverpool and Manchester United. Leicester City not doing too bad either. Great win for Munster in the Heineken Champions Cup over the weekend. We'll reflect on their victory and also look back at the other sporting stories that dominated a busy weekend, including some great local success on the horse racing and point-to-point scene. You're very welcome to the programme.
And it's all over, and Dublin are still the champions. It's 6 in a row. Relentless and unrelenting.
History always on the line when Dublin are playing, and for you today, you join a very elite group of men with 8 All-Ireland medals.
Yeah, no, look, it's incredible, and I'm delighted to enjoy to join such company, I suppose. But I suppose just the year, and it's such a tough year, it's a long year, and I suppose everyone at home watching and stuff, I suppose it's great to be able to play and put on performance for people at home, you know. So yeah, I'm delighted.
Yes, a very good evening to you, and you're very welcome to our final On the Ball show of 2020, all brought to you thanks to UPMC Sports Medicine, making better athletes. And we are going to start, as you can guess, by reflecting on Saturday's All-Ireland football final, Dublin making it 6 All-Irelands in a row by virtue of a 2-14 to 15 points win over Mayo in the decider at Croke Park. And to look back at the action, delighted to welcome back to the programme now former Waterford boss, that's Tom McGlinchey, who joins us on the line. How are you keeping, Tom?
Very good, Gavin. Thank you very much.
No problem at all. Thanks for joining us, Tom. I think it was this time, well, it wasn't this time last year, it was around kind of August time when Dublin had made it 5 in a row, Tom, and we spoke about the conveyor belt of talent, and obviously Dessie Farrell came in his first season. He's now delivered in All-Ireland 6 in a row, and deserving winners from your point of view the other night?
Yeah, Gavin, deserving winners. And as you said back in September of last year, we had said the only way that teams are going to stop Dublin is that they have to up their game, 20-30%, and Dublin would have to reduce what they were doing. And we've seen now over the last number of weeks how Dublin have maintained their standards and probably even increased them. And in fairness, Mayo put up a great show on Saturday evening, but came up short in the end. And I suppose just the power of Dublin, and I suppose it's been well documented, their substitutes bench made a huge impact on Saturday evening, and that ultimately was the difference.
Yeah, it certainly was, and I suppose it wasn't a good start for Mayo, Tom. A minute on the clock, and Dublin had that goal, a brilliantly well worked goal. McCarthy involved, and obviously palmed into the net there by Dean Rock. Probably not the start Mayo would have wanted.
No, not to start that any team wants, and especially when you're playing against a team that are overwhelming favourites. But I suppose you have to give Mayo huge credit the way they came back. I think was it second and 2.5 minutes gone, the score was 3 each. So you have to say Mayo, it didn't let him affect them. Obviously, it was a huge blow to them, and they had the upper hand, I suppose, that first 11, 12, 13 minutes. But then Dublin came with that second sucker punch of another fisted goal, and ultimately, goals win matches, and people are saying it's no more than the hurling game that Waterford would need goals in the hurling match, and no more than last Saturday night Mayo would need goals, and unfortunately it was Dublin got the goals. And you see Dublin scored 2-14, Mayo scored 15 points, which is great scoring for this time of the year, but the common belief would be that you need at least 20 points to beat Dublin, and that's what they would have needed on Saturday night even to get a draw. So yeah, it was an unfortunate start, but I have to say Mayo, especially in that first half, they showed great resolve to come back, and they have they have a great attitude and great belief in themselves, and it made for a very exciting 60 minutes of football.
Yeah, it certainly did indeed. And as you say, goals, I suppose they've been Mayo's Achilles heel over the last couple of years, Tom, particularly when they've played Dublin, in big All-Ireland finals. And I suppose when Dublin kind of tend to raise a green flag as well psychologically, it's kind of worth more than the 3 points really, isn't it?
Yeah, and I suppose, the last couple of years when Dublin got goals in the big matches, I suppose we think of 2016, especially that replay when they got to 2 goals, against the run of play with, like own goals, you could say. And even last year's final, we'll say the goal that Merton got from bursting through from the midfield, and then this year they got the goals, and psychologically they're a huge asset to any team, because you couldn't say that Mayo did anything wrong in the build-up to the goals. Okay, Jack McCarthy made a great run from midfield, and Aidan O'Shea had gone in for the throw-in, and McCarthy just had that yard of pace on him, and I suppose it was the interplay then with Niall Scully and back onto McCarthy and then onto Dean Rock, which led to the goal. And then the second goal, then again a quick 1-2 with Conor Callahan, and got in for the goal. So Mayo were set up very well to prevent Dublin from scoring goals, but Dublin have that resolve and they have that cuteness to get in for the goals, and that's what won the day for them.
Yeah, absolutely. 2-6 to 10 points. Dublin went in leading at half time, but I'm sure Mayo would have been quite positive, Tom, in the dressing room at half time. Anytime they ran at the Dublin defence, they caused a lot of bother, but some will feel maybe they suspended an awful lot of energy in that first half, and I suppose it's hard to maintain that over 70 minutes then taking on the Dubs, isn't it?
Well, it is, and it was the one thing people were worried about after the Tipperary game, that Mayo seemed to be very open for goals. But you would say, at half-time that Mayo seemed to have most possession. Scoring 10 points in a half of football is very good. But then when you looked at the scoreboard and realised that Dublin are 2 points, and I suppose that's how good Dublin are. They keep tipping away the scores. Even there at one stage in the first half, if you remember, it was actually Mayo were up 2 points at one stage. And next we look at the clock and we look at the scoreboard at half time, and Dublin are actually winning by 2 points. So I suppose that tells you how good Dublin are. They tip away at their scores. Mayo, for all the scores they got, they were good, and they had to work hard maybe for some of the frees. But as you said, they expended a lot of energy in getting them scores, whereas Dublin seemed to, get their scores looking that bit easier. So yes, it was tough, but they were in a good position at half time. Gavin, it has to be said, down 2 points, playing with an extra man, and I suppose if you look back in it analytically and kind of be critical about Mayo, they only kind of gained back a point in that 10 minutes that they were with an extra man, and they probably should have made more hay there. While the summer while they had that extra man, because if you use the rugby, even in rugby terms, they always say that when you have the extra man in the rugby, it should be worth between 7 and 10 points in rugby, and I suppose in Gaelic football it should be worth maybe 2 or 3 points, but Mayo didn't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fairness to Mayo, they gained a lot of possession. Just looking at the Examiner, statistics there today, like Mayo won 18 of their own kickouts, Dublin won 11. So both teams, I suppose, were dominant in that sector, Tom. But maybe Dublin a bit more economical up front, and obviously had more, I suppose, scores from play as well during the 70 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And and I suppose compare even to the hurling as well. We say Limerick had more scores from Waterford, and I'm sure that's been well discussed with yourselves. And it was the same last Saturday in the football. And I saw another statistic, I think, was in the first half, Mayo won 100% of their long kick-outs. And, so from that point of view, winning possession wasn't a problem to them. Getting hold of the ball wasn't a problem. But we saw it in the first half a few times. Now, with both teams, actually, they gave away possession cheaply a few times with bad passes and passes going astray. But in that second half period, dropping balls short into the goalkeeper's hand, it's the one thing we always say as coaches, when you're over a team, don't drop the ball short. It either goes over the bar or it goes wide, but don't let it drop short. And I think, if I remember correctly, I think Mayo had 5 points that dropped short into Cluxton's hand, and you can't afford to do that against Dublin. And if you actually watch Dublin, every time they take a score for a score, they nearly always go for a score when they're 100% sure that's going to go over. And it was actually unique of Dublin last Saturday night, in that Kieran Kilkenny, just to mention him, had 2 very bad wides, which was very unusual for Dublin. But Mayo had a few bad shot selections, and in the first half, Ruan went through, won a great ball, and didn't steady himself, and kicked the lame shot into Cluxton's hand, and worked that through for a score, and to put Mayo up 3 points at the time. And so they're the little things that Mayo look back on with regret. But look, at the end of the day, Dublin were worthy winners.
Yeah, they certainly were indeed. You mentioned Kieran Kilkenny seems to be odds on for Footballer of the Year. I know he was guilty of a few poor misses the other night, but still 3 from play, Tom. And I suppose not just his scores from play, he seems to be the fulcrum of that attack, the real link man, and he's improved even more, people would say, again this year in 2020.
Look, unbelievable. Actually, I think Kieran Kilkenny is playing better now than he was a couple of years ago, when people were talking about all his possessions in sport, because I always felt a few years ago he was, maybe a link man, but it was always kind of simple hand passes. Okay, he wasn't giving away the ball, but this year he's brought a new dimension to his game, and that he's going for the scores. And I'd never be critical of a guy hitting the ball wide. You take his 3 points, his 2 wides, his assist for the goal, and then his overall strength and power after trying to dispossess players. So yeah, he's a super talent, and had a huge impact on the game on Sunday night or Saturday night. And even when I was watching it, I was saying in my mind he was fairly close even to man of the match. And maybe people thought because there's 2 wides that that went against him, but I just thought he was involved in the play at all the vital stages, and he's just an integral part of the Dublin team. But it's very hard to pick out any weak links in that Dublin team. And when they do play below par, they're very quick to make substitutions. And I suppose all their substitutions then worked last Saturday night.
Yeah, that impact off the bench as well, very evident again. I suppose Mayo were probably again reliant on Cillian O'Connor. He's had a phenomenal season really, Tom. Used the mark rule well as well the other night, got a couple of scores, and he ended with 9-5 frees there with those 2 marks, but maybe didn't get the likes of Aidan O'Shea and their bigger forwards maybe into the game. But as you mentioned there, that's pretty down to the the tenacity of the Dublin defending as well, I suppose.
Yeah, I look. People are very critical of Aidan O'Shea, but he's still a huge part in their game. And he actually won maybe 2 possessions there in the second half. Won a free, got tangled up then for another. Was unlucky not to get another free. And but probably you're expecting more from him, or maybe get a better return. I think Mayo will be disappointed with Kevin McLaughlin, and again maybe that's down to Dublin. Nullifying his effect in the game, because Kevin McLaughlin's been a huge part of their play over the last number of years. Cillian O'Connor was absolutely outstanding. But again, to be critical, there was 1 or 2 times you saw Cillian O'Connor back on his own 21-yard line, picking up play, or maybe being the extra defender back, or the extra man back, and you need Cillian O'Connor inside that D to be the danger man. So, I think Dublin had that, looked at, and I suppose they brought Cillian O'Connor back, and even Deemer O'Connor, while he was playing midfield, he got caught once or twice, I think, rushing out to the man with the ball, and ball popped over his head, and even for that second goal, I think he was guilty of that, to make that space for Conor Callan to get the goal. So I suppose Mayo would be disappointed with some of their bigger players, but that's not to take from Cillian O'Connor's performance. I thought he was outstanding, and as you say, the marks were fantastic.
Yeah, they certainly were indeed. And I suppose overall, Tom, Dublin 6 in a row, another phenomenal season in what's been, I suppose, a strange year. But obviously Dublin won't mind Sam Maguire for the 6th year in a row, and obviously Desi Farrell's come in and put his stamp on it. And you see the new guys he introduced, the likes of Robbie McDade and Sean Bugler, and these guys, they seem to have found their way into the squad. And again, going to be very hard to stop, I suppose, going into next year as well, aren't they?
Very hard to stop. And then, you take it, there's definitely a change in the guard, even though they were part of the panel, the likes of Michael Darren McCauley, Kevin McMenamin, Philly McMahon, none of them had any impact, or, we'll say McCauley and McMenamin not introduced, and even looking through the subs, you see the hits there on the subs, and they have new fellas bringing in all the time. So, they're going to be very, very hard to dislodge. I suppose the only shining light from the weekend, maybe on Saturday, was that Galway defeated Dublin in the under-21, so that there wasn't a clean sweep then, which was good and good for football. And again, you have to admire the Dubs. We can be critical at times. Again, it's a story maybe for another day, and it deserves another day, talking about their finances and everything that goes on behind the scenes there in Dublin. But it's just on their performances this year and over the last 6 years, phenomenal. And we keep talking about Brian Fenton, 43 games now without losing a championship game, isn't it? It's
unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh my! I think the worry then is when he does lose a championship game, if there's a backdoor in, he'll come back even bigger and stronger. Because we all know that we learn a lot from defeats, and we come back stronger, and we come back hungrier for more. So the fact that he's come back hungry and for winning all the time without ever losing a championship game, I don't know what he's going to be like when he eventually does lose a championship game. So phenomenal team, can't take it away from, and unfortunately for everyone, but deserving winners last Saturday. But I thought an excellent All-Ireland final, and very good up until the last 10 minutes when it looked inevitable then that Dublin were going to finish off with the victory.
Yeah, definitely. You're hard to go out for Mayo and James Horn. They're so passionate about the game. But I suppose you have to remember too, Tom, I think it was 9 new players maybe Mayo would have introduced this season, and I suppose they are kind of, some would say, a work in progress, even though I suppose they're used to appearing in All-Ireland finals. With the turnover of players they had this year, like James Horn, would be really, really pleased with their season. Obviously you're going to be disappointed losing an All-Ireland final.
Oh, absolutely. And, again, as we said, everything had to go right. And I suppose Tommy Conroy, who was in line for Young Player of the Year and probably still will get it for Mayo, just things didn't run right for him last Sunday. Last Saturday evening, dropped one or two turnovers he had resulted in scores. But that's not to take away from the contribution he made to the year. Young McLaughlin, Evan McLaughlin, wing back, was very good. Oisin Mullen, I thought, was absolutely outstanding in the game last Saturday. Scored the first point for Mayo with assisted point. With centre forward, so a lot of positives for James Horn to take, and I suppose that he's the added incentive of that he's in Division 2 for the coming season. He'll probably blood more players in that, and Mayo will have a big say again in next season. Sam Maguire, but 2020, I suppose, is all about the doubles, but I think what was great about 2020 this year was, okay, it was unfortunate the teams didn't get a second bite of the cherry or didn't get a backdoor game, but wasn't it great to see new provincial winners in Gavin and Tipperary especially, and just I think it highlighted a great year for football and in what was a very tough year for the GA and for people in general.
Absolutely, yeah. Leads us into a final point of something I suppose I've been finishing with a lot of people I've had on the programme over the last couple of weeks, Tom, and we touched on it off air there before we started the piece about the lift to GA championship games, and I suppose sport in general has given people over the last couple of weeks in what are still challenging times, but they're supposed to sit down and watch the games, and obviously here in Waterford the hurlers had a great run and kind of lifted the spirits of so many people in the county as well, and I suppose just goes to show that sport, the important role it does play in many people's lives as well, that it can't be taken for granted.
Absolutely, Gavin, absolutely. And I suppose, look, we have our GA hats on and we're talking about the hurling and football, and I think the whole country were behind Waterford last week, as and no more than 2 years ago they were all behind Limerick, but everyone loves to see, and I know teams mightn't like it, loves to see the underdog coming through, and it would have been like last Saturday with Mayo. But I think what was great about this year, especially the games that we saw on television and games that were streamed and games that were played live, we'll say live on the radio with radio stations like yourself, the impact that GA and sport in general has on the country and has on people's well-being. And I even see it in my own club there. We say, even when I was involved with the kids, ladies football teams, and we kept training there in October, November, December on Saturdays, and just the parents just love just dropping the kids off, get them out, get them in fresh air, and we can't underestimate that. So whether it is ladies football, camogie, basketball, hurling or football at the elite level, it's been fantastic. And as I said to you off air there, here we are now, the 21st of December, talk about the All-Ireland. I suppose the only two people that mightn't enjoy the Christmas now might be Joe Power and Lawrence Hurnley, because they don't know when their county final is going to be played. They might have the lads training for their county football final, but you know what, it's been fantastic, and isn't it great that we can look forward to it again, and hopefully safe in a few weeks' time again, get back on the road again.
Absolutely, a nice note to end on. Tom McGlinchey, pleasure as always to chat to you. Really appreciate you taking the call. Look, stay safe, enjoy the Christmas I suppose as best you can, and best wishes again for 2021, and we'll catch up then, please God.
And thanks very much, Gavin, and regards to everyone in WLR and in the Waterford GA fraternity.
We are WLR.
We are Ireland's local station of the year.